NASCAR Cup Series has had its qualifying for the Championship 4 race, so we are going to preview that, talk about that, and then I am going to give you my pick for the Championship 4 once again. Sorry for not the normal backdrop and stuff. I found a better, more entertaining background, but yeah, hopefully that light gets fixed tomorrow. Anyways, now on to the championship race for the NASCAR Cup Series. The Xfinity race starts in about 30 minutes from when I'm recording this, but yeah, the Cup Series Championship 4, they just wrapped up qualifying, and oh my goodness, Kyle Larson laid down a lap. Chase Elliott was on pole for the majority of the qualifying session, but then Kyle Larson came in and set a lap down that was almost more than 2/10 quicker than Chase Elliott's lap. And yeah, that's a preview for tomorrow, then Larson domination, I guess. But yes, of course, let's talk about the Championship 4, where they're starting, and then we'll talk about their season so far and look at the race. As I said, Kyle Larson on the pole tomorrow. Chase Elliott starting up with him on the front row. Then down the list, we got Denny Hamlin starting 6th, and Martin Truex Jr. will be starting 12th. Those are your 4 Championship 4 drivers. Once again, those drivers are Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, and Martin Truex Jr. So yes, those 4, they have been the top 4 in almost every category. They're the top 4 for laps led, top 4, maybe not top 4 for wins. I know that Truex is tied for the second most. Larson obviously has the most. Hamlin and Elliott both have 2 apiece. They all have a bunch of top 10s this season, a good amount of top 5, stage wins, all that stuff. So let's look at those numbers. First off, Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson has been dominating this season. 9 wins, 19 top 5s, 22 top 10s, and 16 stage wins. He has been the best team all year. They really turned it up the last 2/3 of the season, I want to say. His first season with Hendrick Motorsports, they have just, it doesn't matter where they go. They lead laps. They win races, whether it's a 1.5 mile like Texas, whether it's, a track like Nashville, a road course. I mean, they have won almost everywhere. They have dominated almost every race, it seems like. Larson has broken the modern-day record for most laps led in a 36-race season. I mean, that team has been insane this year. They have been absolutely dominant. Won the regular season championship. They were more than 100 points back, maybe 150. That might be a stretch, but they were a ton of points back. They've had 2 3-race winning streaks this year. I mean, they've done everything possible to win. Denny Hamlin, we'll talk about him in a minute, but I mean, Larson and this 5 team have been absolutely insane this year, and it would be almost criminal if he didn't win the championship this year. At least him or Hamlin if they don't win the championship. But they've got one more race to do it this year. One more race they got to beat everyone else in. And, yeah, they're going to have a really good shot. They got a fast car, obviously, with that qualifying. And, Hendrick Motorsports, they've put together great cars all year long. And, obviously, Kyle Larson has been driving amazing this year. So that is the first team. The next one is Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has 2 wins this year. Las Vegas and, what was the other one? Darlington. Those are his 2 wins this year, both in the playoffs, Hamlin, he has led the second most laps this year. He has the second most stage wins, I believe, this year. He has 18 top 5s, 24 top 10s. He has had a really consistent season. A really good season this year for Hamlin. Larson's had a few bad races. He's had some DNFs. He's had some crashes, some mechanical problems, and that's why Hamlin's been a little bit more consistent. He's been performing a little bit more consistently, which is why he was able to compete with Larson for that regular season title, get all those playoff points in terms of the regular season stuff because of how consistent he was. So, yeah, Denny Hamlin's had a tremendous season so far. Is this the year? Hamlin has not won a championship in his career. He is regarded as one of the best in NASCAR history to not win a championship. Can this be the weekend? He's won at Phoenix before, has 2 career Phoenix wins. He was in this championship race last year, but was the weakest of the 4 last year. So they're looking to improve on that this year, hoping to do something better. And he's got a little fuel. There's been some fuel added to the fire after last week's race at Martinsville, but Hamlin looking to get his first career Cup title this weekend at Phoenix. He's been extremely consistent this year. Him and Larson have been top two. Those two, it could be a tremendous battle between those two tomorrow. And then we have Chase Elliott, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion. 2 wins this year, both at road courses, Circuit of the Americas and Road America. He has been actually pretty decent this year, around, without the win, other than the wins, he's been around the same place in terms of his numbers that he was last year. 14 top 5s, 20 top 10s, and 6 stage wins. So he's been pretty good this year. I would say he's probably, him and Truex have probably, him, Truex, and Blaney, maybe Kyle Busch have been arguably the 3rd best driver all year. Those guys have just been really good. It seems like Hendrick Motorsports as a whole has been really good. Obviously, Larson with the 9 wins, but, you know, Bowman has 4 wins. Byron has a win, and he's been extremely consistent. Elliot's been pretty consistent this year. So Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, that's going to help out a ton. This is the first time in the team's history that Hendrick Motorsports has multiple cars in the championship 4. Of course, this format has only been around since 2014, but still Hendrick Motorsports arguably the most recognized, most successful team in NASCAR history, that this is our first time with multiple cars in the championship 4. It's a little bit shocking to hear that. But, yes, it's them and Joe Gibbs, the only 2 teams in. But Chase Elliott looking to repeat, looking to get a second championship, looking to steal this one away from Hamlin, Larson, even Truex as well. Speaking of Martin Truex Jr., he is the most recent Phoenix winner. He won this race back in, what was that, March? I think March. Won it earlier this year. That was his first career win at Phoenix. All of his wins have come on the 750 tracks this year. He has been pretty good on those tracks, but he has been a bit inconsistent this year. Despite that, though, 4 wins on the season, 12 top 5s, 19 top 10s, and a few stage wins to go along with it with 5 stage wins. So Truex, it hasn't been one of his best years, but he has done pretty solid. He has done just enough to get to this championship 4, was able to point his way in last minute, or not last minute, but, you know, just by a few points there at the end last week at Martinsville. And once again, I think that's where he might have an advantage on the other guys, is that with this 750 package, Truex seems like he has been one of the strongest in all of NASCAR this year. So I think that could be an advantage for him. But once again, he's got to go through the 2 Hendrick guys and his teammate Denny Hamlin, who is hungry as ever. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the NASCAR Cup Series championship race. Who's going to win it? Who's going to be up front? Who's going to be competing for this title? I think that all 4 guys will be pretty equally competitive. You know, it seems like the past couple of years, especially, the 4 championship guys have been the top 4 in the race. Back at the beginning, it was a little like the top 2 would be the championship guys, and then the other 2 would be 6th and 10th. But the past 3 years, really, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4 championship guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think we expect that again this year. And we look at the 4 guys, and they're arguably the 4 best guys in the field. Obviously, Larson and Hamlin, no question, the top 2 this year. But Elliot, he's been good at Phoenix recently. He's the most he won this race last year, won the championship in this race last year. Martin Truex Jr. is the most recent winner in this race. He's led some laps at Phoenix before, and, you know, he's one of the best at the 750 tracks. So you got to expect those 2 to be up there as well. But obviously, you know, there's a lot of storylines outside of the championship. It's Brad Keselowski's last race as a Penske driver. I think he's in the top 5. He qualified 5th. You've got other guys. Well, actually, that was the point standings. He might not have qualified 5th. My bad. Point being that there's going to be a lot of storylines. There's going to be a lot of other drivers out there that are going to try to steal these positions that I could see doing well. But I do think this is going to be the top 4 are going to be the championship 4, which has been the theme, as I said, the past few years. I expect that theme to continue. Could come down to a late race restart. Could be a long green flag run like we saw last year. I don't know. It's one race. You guys know I'm not a fan of this format, but man, I feel like we haven't had a late race restart in the championship race since like the year that Logano and Edwards got into a crash and Jimmy Johnson won, but it's hard to predict, like, oh, there's going to be a late race restart and everything's going to go crazy. But if this does go green If there's just an uneventful race, it could be Larson that just dominates this thing. It could be Elliot that tries to steal it from him maybe. I don't know. But in qualifying at least, it looked like Hamlin, Elliott, and Larson were the three best, with Truex lagging just a bit behind. But in practice yesterday, Truex had some of the best speed in terms of the long run, the 10 laps, 15 laps, 20 laps. So that could be something to look out for as well. But I have to make my pick. I don't know what's going to happen in this race. I don't know if it's going to be a long green flag run or maybe a 2-lap dash to the checkers. But back in the preseason, back in February, I made my picks for the championship. And you guys know me, I'm always loyal to my championship pick throughout the year. At the beginning of the season, I pick them, and if they make the playoffs, I stick with them, and they make the championship I stick with them. Last year in 2020, I picked Chase Elliott to win the championship before the season, and I stuck with him, and it worked out. This year in the preseason, I picked this guy to win the championship. Back at the beginning of the playoffs, I picked this guy to win the championship, and you're darn right I'm going to stick with him. I think Martin Truex Jr. wins his second career championship at Phoenix Raceway tomorrow. I think that he's got a really good shot. He looked really good in the spring at Phoenix. If that long run speed can continue and he doesn't, mess around in that 10th to 12th place area, gets up front fast, I think he could give something to those Hendrick guys. He could give something to his teammate, give them a run for their money. And, obviously if it comes down to a late race restart, maybe a couple guys do some stupid things. But Martin Truex Jr. is my championship pick. Tomorrow is the race. So my schedule for tomorrow, hopefully it's still light out and I can try to figure something out so I can have my normal setup. But, yeah, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, the F1 race, the Mexican Grand Prix, Mexico City Grand Prix, I think is what they're calling it now. But I'll try to do that normal. I'll try to get that in. I think the Cup race is scheduled for 2, which means 2:20, 2:30. But hopefully the F1 race isn't too long, and I can try to get that in and try to get the Cup race in as well. I mean, I'm going to do the Cup Championship recap regardless, but I just don't want to miss too much of that Cup race. So hopefully the F1 race doesn't go too chaotic, I guess. But, yeah, looking forward to both of those races tomorrow, the F1 race at 1 o'clock, the Mexico City Grand Prix. And then we got the Cup Championship tomorrow, which I'm also looking forward to at Phoenix. But, yeah, who do you guys think is going to win the championship? Is Kyle Larson going to do what he's done all season and just dominate, run away with this thing? Is his teammate going to give him a challenge? Could Denny Hamlin, the second best guy all year, could he potentially show up and just dominate like he did at Las Vegas? Or could Martin Truex Jr. sneak up there, do what he did in the spring, and win at Phoenix? Let me know in the comments what you think. But it's Xfinity time. We got to go watch this Xfinity Series Championship. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and I will see you tomorrow for more racing.